our lecture has started, and the first question is, who are these two? Greek gods. They're almost like gods, but he's correct that these are Greek philosophers. Yeah? No, Descartes is not a Greek philosopher. Descartes is actually a French philosopher, French mathematician. Not Pythagoras, but this is Aristotle and this is Socrates. This is Aristotle and this is Plato. Sorry. Okay, so the sequence, you've heard of these names? Socrates, Plato and Aristotle. Okay, the sequence is Socrates, his student was Plato, and Plato's student was Aristotle. Okay, so this is a very famous painting. This is an iconic painting from the you've heard of the Renaissance? Yes, yes. Which was Italian, sort of a flowering of cultural productivity in every area, architecture, art. So this is a painter called Raphael. Not Nadal, but a painter called Raphael. So this painting is called the School of Athens. The reason this is called the School of Athens, and this has importance for people who are learners like you should be lifelong learners. In the School of Athens, basically Plato was the teacher. He had a school called the Academy. It was in Athens, and the student in that school was Aristotle. Okay, so most famous student of Plato in the Academy. So this is why this painting is called the School of Athens, and it actually has features. It features many of the well-known figures of the Italian Renaissance. So like there's Ptolemy over here. Ptolemy is the astronomer. Okay, so this is Diogenes the philosopher, but this is a very famous painting by Raphael called the School of Athens. So it's important to understand that in the Academy you have this modern education system which is very grade focused, right? So in Plato's Academy there was no attendance, there were no exams, there were no grades, and there were no degrees, and the end product was Aristotle, right? So in many ways we have moved away from the essence of education. We have made it very process focused, especially in our in India. It's much more so than in other countries where we have people who are very, very focused on grades. Okay, so one of the things you have to change is now we are coming into the so I'm going to be a little bit, it may feel to you a little bit like I'm jumping between topics, but just bear with me because it's a little bit, to some extent, that is my style of teaching. But everything is there in your notes, okay? So you'll be able to see the connection. But one of the things that we are trying to, one of the messages that we are trying to give you is that you have to focus on skill development, okay? Now you're in a different mode. That compared to skills versus degrees is what we are talking about. So using the example of the Academy, we are now coming to this idea that you have to get out of you have to change your mindset to some extent, because to a great extent, that is, you should now, because most of you, how many of you are serious about a career in the corporate world? Many of you? Okay, it seems like slightly lower percentage than what we had in section B. But even if you're going to go back to your dad's business, I think it's useful that if you're going to be here, might as well train yourself to be a good MBA student, like a top-notch business students. It can't hurt, because anyway, this is a very little amount of time, very small amount of time for you, and you're putting in the money, might as well get the most out of it. Train yourself in the right way. So what we're talking about is skills versus degrees. Now you're here in a professional program. Corporates care about skills. They don't care so much about degrees. Okay, you understand what I'm saying? Like this, have you heard of this lady, Sheryl Sandberg? A different, okay, Facebook COO, right? Okay, so she is, and what is COO? Chief Operating Officer, okay. Oh, so normally people say COO, don't say COO, okay. But, so this is the interview with Sandberg. No, this is a different, this is now Davos is going on, so they're just interviewing people from let's forget about that. But the basic message of this article, this is now behind a paywall, so you can't read this, but the basic message of this article is that Facebook doesn't really care about people having MBAs. They don't really care about what degree you have. She's basically saying at some point in this article, she says that we care about what you can do and not about what degree you have. So you need to change your orientation on your professional program. You need to get a good job when you finish the program. So you should be focused on acquiring skills, all right, and not just on getting. You should try to get good grades, because that also becomes important. Try to maintain decent grades, but there's more to it than just grades. So you have a real goal has to be skill development, and that's what should be your primary focus, and we'll be showing you how to do that, all right. Okay, so we started with that brief introduction with the academy, and that's why I came to this point. But before this, I'll just go briefly into your CP marking. Let's capture this also. The way it's going to work is that we are going to study this course because this is also related to the idea of skill development. The way we are going to study this course is that we are going to train you to look at it's going to be a very intensive course. Normally lab is taught in most business schools through textbooks. Okay, we are not going to use that. We have given you a textbook. I'll come to that later, but mainly lab, we are going to train you in a very intensive way, so that at the end of the course, hopefully, if you put in solid amount of effort, you will be very confident in analyzing judgments, understanding the heart of a legal problem of a case, right, and you will be confident enough to even argue with lawyers that on questions on what kind of methodology should be followed, because God forbid that if you ever have to get into litigation in your own life, right, you should be in a position to second guess your lawyer, because sometimes you don't get a very good lawyer. Many people have this problem, and therefore you should be in a position, and law is a subject where you can, if you put in some solid effort with the right training, you can actually get a comfort level with the subject, good enough to be able to second guess the lawyer. Second guessing, you understand what that term means? Second guessing means lawyers saying do this, put the case in this court, but you should be able to tell him no, this is not the right decision, you should put the case in that particular other court. Okay, many times lawyers put the cases in the wrong court also, because there are different courts for different types of matters. So you'll find this very often in Calcutta. There are many cases sitting in the wrong court. They should be in a different court, because the lawyer himself doesn't know where the court should the case should be. So we're going to teach it to you in a very intensive manner, and the main modus operandi is going to be like this, that we are going to give you we are mainly going to be using the Delhi University case maths for different subjects, which are very good. Actually, they're used around the country. There are many classic cases from all these topics. So here's an example of a case from contract law, right? So what we are going to do, but don't, just because we are doing Delhi University, don't take those DU, Kunjis and Dukkis. That will not help you to answer the questions that I'm going to ask you. Okay, so focus on the way I'm training you to reach this. So this kind of case will be assigned to you as a reading, and then the next day I'm going to randomly catch people from the group, and this is how it ties into the group, and there'll be some questions associated with the case. So when I assign a case, I'll also give you some questions related to this case, and those are the questions that you'll have to answer in the CP, right? So what's going to happen is we are going to come here, and then we are going to take this sheet. Okay, say we just did this example with Mukul in section B. So let's say Mukul is the group leader of the group, and maybe somebody else, say Saloni, is also in his group. Then what we will do is I'll just say random, and then there's 4 or 5 other people. On that particular day, on the first day of the CP, I'm going to just take anybody randomly from the group, and whatever they score, and everybody will be asked the same question. Okay, everyone will be asked the same question. They will be separated from the group, made to stand here so you can't communicate, and then I'll show you the question, and each member from the group has to answer, and whatever each member scores, so whatever say Saloni scores for their group will be that score will apply to all the group members. Okay, are you following what I'm saying? So this forces everybody to be on their toes. Everyone has to be prepared, because you don't know who I'm going to catch, and sometimes I may catch the same guy 2 days in a row. All right, and so this is your total score. So if they on the first day, let's say Saloni scores 11, then the score will go up. You can see it goes up to 67. Okay, so this is total, and this will be applied to everybody else in the group. I've not put the other scores here, but essentially everybody else will get the same score in the group. Okay, is this clear? This is how it's going to work once we get into the CP mode, which will be hopefully very soon, within 2 or 3 sessions. So that's your marking, that's 50% of your score, and the way it will be graded eventually is that we will take the top team. Let's say the top team is 72 and the lowest scoring team between all the sections is 47. Then what I'll do is I'll give an arbitrary grade to the top team, 72, maybe I'll give them 100%. That depends on how I feel the group has performed, the whole batch has performed in that particular course. If I find that most of you guys have not put in any effort, then I'll give the top team also a low grade, like not 100%, maybe 60% or something, and then I'll arbitrarily give the lowest team also some percentage grade. So let's say if I give 100% to the top team and 40% to the lowest team, then everybody else will get a prorated percentage in between. Are you following? Okay, so that's how it will be scored. So that's going to be your CP. So essentially all it means is that you have to take your CP seriously, because it's 50% of the course, and that's where your learning will also come in. And you may find this very difficult going when we come to some of these cases, but I can tell you from past experience that many cases, like among your super seniors, I remember, they were actually saying, especially with the income tax cases, they were finding it very difficult. But the same girl who was complaining one day before the course, the case, that, so this is very difficult, please explain it first. But the same girl came and gave a fantastic presentation on that particular case. Okay, so if you find something difficult, don't just give up. Just keep pushing, and then eventually you may find that it's quite clear. Okay, so we have seen those situations as well. All right. So how is this going to work? If at any point of time, if you don't follow what I'm saying, the train of my thought, maybe I'm jumping a little bit between here and there. If you don't understand anything, please ask a question. Okay, I'll never fire anybody for not asking a question, but I will fire you if I randomly catch you and ask you a question and I find that you have not understood and you have still not asked a question, then you have a problem. Okay, are you following what I'm saying? Okay. Right, so this unit 0 in lab is generally, it's a non-syllabus material, so you're not going to be evaluated on this. But I do this with every batch. I spend one class doing this because I feel that we should give every batch the benefit of the doubt. Sometimes we find in your senior batches people are not that serious, but I should assume that every batch is a fresh start. Okay, so I assume that many of you are serious about making a career in the corporate world. And the way I see my role as a teacher is that the teacher is like a coach. I don't really see it in the traditional teacher sense, but I see myself more as a coach. Okay, we are trying to achieve an outcome here. So you should be very clear about the outcome, which is the outcome that we are trying to achieve is that we are trying to produce outstanding business students. Okay, business graduates, B school graduates. So at the end of the course, you should be coming out as an outstanding business graduate. So my goal is, I'm only concerned about that. Okay, I'm not concerned about giving you a easy time or making your life very easy by giving you help here and there. I may be driving you quite hard, but you should understand why that is happening, because my goal is to produce the result that we are all looking for, which is that when you come out, you should be an outstanding business student. Is this clear? Should just that show that you're clear about why we are doing what we are doing. Okay. All right, so this is so in this first unit 0 actually, we have some general guidelines, some slightly philosophical guidelines, which I think is important for young people to be aware of. At least somebody should tell you once, because many of these things I feel I regret that nobody told me this when I was your age. Maybe I would have taken better decisions if they had told me that. Okay, so first thing is, we've given your textbook on logic. Please pick up your textbook. I will not be able to deal with this textbook in the class. We are trying to set up a formal course on logic, but it'll take some time. But I've given you this textbook mainly because your course fee includes price of a textbook. Okay, so I feel that you're entitled to a textbook, and the reason I chose the logic textbook is that I think logic is a very important subject. I think it's the mother of all subjects, really. And it's more important even than mathematics, because all mathematics has to be logical, but all logic is not mathematical. Okay, you can have logical statements just using the English language, which do not use mathematical symbols, but they are still logical. You will see that law is very logical, but it's not mathematical. Okay, so therefore logic, and unfortunately the problem with most educational systems is, certainly in our country, nobody is taught logic in a formal way. According to me, we should be teaching students logic, a solid course on logic for at least 2 or 3 years in school, solid courses on logic, because logic is the mother of all subjects. Every subject you go to, engineering or computer science, especially computer science, everything is based on logic. So if you have a classical training in logic, it's very important. So this book will help you if you can spend the time. Of course, your first priority is the PGDM program, but if you can spend the time later on, even after you graduate from college, please make sure you read this book and try to develop some basic understanding of logic. Okay, so just a little bit of learning on this idea is called meta learning. Your students, you're going to be engaged in learning. You should also have some idea about meta learning. Means learning about learning methodology. Meta is the word we use, META. Okay, so you should also have some awareness of what is happening in the world of teaching. What are the different methods of teaching? You should have some kind of working knowledge of that. All right. So what you are used to, just want to introduce a few terms. Case method, you're used to the case method. Everybody knows by now, case method. So this is referred to as a seminar style teaching method. Okay. This is the main word here, seminar style. And lecture tutorial method. Okay, so seminar style is case method. You already know how it works. Teacher doesn't really speak much. They just collate what the students are saying, right? And you're already familiar with it. That's called a seminar style teaching method. Lecture tutorial method is how you've been taught maths in school and college, right? The teacher comes and tells you, okay, this is how the matrix looks like. These are the rows and columns. This is how you multiply matrices. So it's a lecture format, and then the teacher will give you some problem on matrix multiplication, and then if you have a problem not solving it, then the teacher will help you out. Okay, so that's called the lecture tutorial method, right? Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, you should be aware of these terms. So certain types of subjects are better suited to each of these types of methods. Like I think marketing, OB, HR, strategy is very well suited to the case method, but other subjects I feel, even like finance, I personally feel is better suited to this kind of method because it's very technical. Mathematics is also better. Can you imagine teaching mathematics using a case method? It's not very efficient, right? You can always teach mathematics using a case method, but it's not efficient. You understand what is meant by efficiency? That you get the job done in the fastest possible time, right? So it's not efficient in certain subject, depends on the subject matter. So you should know these terms. And then the other term is the flipped classroom style. Okay, what happens in the flipped classroom? This is what we're going to be following in lab. So what happens? Flipped, you understand, is like I have a glass and I flip it on its head. So flip means I turn everything upside down. So flipped classroom, normally what happens in class, the traditional method of learning we're used to is that the teacher comes and gives a lecture. Okay, maybe he teaches you calculus, then you have an initial session on differential calculus. The theory is taught to you, then some problems are done, and then you get an exam. Okay, so the teacher's already explained it, and then so you have the explanation from the teacher coming before the evaluation, and then you get a quiz, and then you're graded on the quiz, right? So the evaluation comes after the explanation, the teacher's explanation. In the flipped classroom, the reason it's called flipped, people use some other definition which are not really correct because it doesn't bring out the flipped aspect. Why is it called flipped? Because you're going to be evaluated before you get the teacher's explanation. Okay, so what's going to happen is, if we go back to this class, if we go back to this course, this case as an example, this will be in your syllabus. Okay, so this case will be assigned to you. You'll be taught the basic principles of contract law, okay, initially, and then this case will be given to you as a reading, and there'll be some questions attached to the case. Now, I've not explained the case, and one of the things that's different about law compared to what you've studied in marketing cases and strategy cases is that in law there is only one right answer, especially the judgments that we are studying. Some of the aspects of law have multiple answers, those are discussion areas, but when it comes to the analysis of a case, the structure of law is such that there's only one right answer. You have to understand exactly what logic the court has used to arrive at the decision. Okay, so it's different from marketing cases or strategy cases because there's only one right answer, and the questions will be asked, and you are going to be, so this whole CP grading business was going to happen. This CP grading business is going to happen. Now, I've not explained the case. I give you the reading, I give you some questions, I've given you some basic ideas of contract law, I've given you some resources, and you have to analyze everything yourself and answer the question yourself without any explanation from the teacher up front. So you may feel that it's very difficult because it's very unusual, okay? But just bear with me and just trust in the method and try to do your best. As I said, some of your seniors initially got very scared. Income tax cases, I can't figure it out, but eventually she made a fantastic presentation. So she got like top marks in the, it happens quite often actually. So therefore push through and try to understand the logic. Of course, it helps if your English comprehension is very good. It helps you to understand the judgment. And this is also something that will come out later when we discuss communication skills. Connected to that is the idea of English comprehension. Your English comprehension should be, you need to improve your English comprehension. This will help you to some extent. But you can take some, yeah, anybody has a question? Okay, all right. So we continue. Are you following so far? Okay, some other classroom pointers. Please make sure that, okay, I don't expect everybody to be interested in the material in lab. Maybe even my teaching delivery is not appealing to you. So if you are not finding the course interesting, you're allowed to sleep. You can also eat and drink in the class. All that is allowed, but drink means not alcohol. But you can drink, eat in the class. So if you've missed, I don't want anybody to have ulcers. So if you missed, but please don't make a mess of it. Like, don't make your, I'm eating, look at me, I'm eating. Don't make it a big, thing. But if you're hungry, you missed your lunch or something, you can bring your food to class. I don't have a problem. But don't make a mess. Like, don't throw things all over the desk, and don't make it a big deal that you're eating and distract the other class members. But for otherwise, you can eat, drink, whatever. And I don't want to see too many people going out of the classroom. Like, sometimes you have this situation because in your seniors, in the case of your seniors, because the finance material is very heavy, so they can't handle it, and I force people to concentrate from end to end. I will teach right till the end of the class. And so therefore what happens is, I can understand just to get a break, and I don't let anybody look anywhere else. They have to look at me. So it becomes too difficult, and they need a break, and they're all rushing out to get some water. And that's very distracting to me. So if you guys keep going out too much, then I'll have to ban people from going out from the class. Okay. So try to behave yourself and maintain good discipline. These are the basic sort of some administrative aspects of the course. So what I was saying is, so please pay attention. So you're allowed to sleep, you can eat and drink, but otherwise you have to pay attention. Okay. And I've not taken the phones this time. I have a box for collecting phones, but I expect you guys to, if you guys are on good behavior, I don't see people looking down at the phones, then I won't confiscate the phones. But in your second years, I had to confiscate. Before the start of the class, I used to capture all the phones. In any way, your phones are supposed to be switched off. Okay, so I should not see anybody looking down at the phones. You're not allowed to look down. You can sleep, but otherwise you have to look at me. When I look around, I should see you looking at me. Okay, any question you ask me, don't ask your partners or buddies. Okay, so flipped classroom. Now you understand what flipped classroom is. You're going to be doing that in this course. Okay, this is how it's going to work. It may feel difficult, but just push through. I've just given you some links to software if you want, just to explore. Text-to-speech is very useful. Actually, I did my entire LLB. All these cases, we had to do about 35 cases into six papers, 35 cases, 6 semesters. All those cases, judgments, and I read them from multiple times. So I didn't have time because I was traveling a lot. So I used to convert all the text material into speech, and then later on I found that actually my retention is better if I listen to the case rather than read it. So you can experiment with it. I've given you a software. This is actually, you need to buy it, but it's good. It's good software. There are some other software. I should give you one which is free, but it's on a desktop version. I don't know if I have a TTS reader. You can read this. You can do this. This is a desktop version. This is free. You can convert text to speech. So you can just Google this. I think it's ttsreader.com. This is a free software. This one you have to buy. Okay, so I'm going to spend this first section, the first lecture really is going to be spent on some motivational questions which are not really related to law as such, certainly philosophical questions, but I feel these are important because nobody ever had a discussion with me when I was your age on these issues. I felt it would be useful. So we are trying to make sure that even if 10%, 15% of the batch can get some benefit from these ideas, it'll be worth it. So let's look at some of the ideas that we want to just convey to you, and this is going to happen in a lecture tutorial method. Okay, so if you find it, you may find it a little bit boring because I'm not asking people like, what is your opinion, what is this, what is her opinion, but it's faster to deliver the material in this manner. Lecture tutorial method is much more efficient when I'm trying to basically give you certain ideas, because remember how this whole thing is going to work. So remember that the overall goal is that we are trying to produce outstanding business students. And how is that going to happen? Mainly through the PGDM program. You should try and do justice to the program. But that's not going to be good enough, because given where you guys are, if you want to compete with the top students in all the business schools, okay, and all the top business schools, people are working very hard. They don't just do the curriculum part, okay. They're doing all kinds of stuff outside the curriculum. So obviously the curriculum comes first. So the point here is that I got a little lost. What was I saying? Okay, so that the idea is I'm still a little bit lost, but anyway, so the idea is that first thing is that you can compete with the best students. Okay, let's just go on. You can compete with the best students. We're trying to just give you some, okay, yeah, I understand where I got lost. Okay, what I was trying to say is that this whole thing, that the way this thing is going to be done is that, remember, we have to produce outstanding business students. Main goal is through the main technique is through the PGDM program, but additionally we'll also be giving you some pointers, okay, and you have to work with those pointers on your own in your spare time. All right, so remember, as I said, I'm like a coach. So part of the things I'll be working with you in the class, but we can't work on everything. So some I'll give you a pointer like, okay, you need to work on your backhand, which means you have to go and practice on your backhand on your own all the time, because I've given you that instruction. So that's how it's going to work. Okay, so this is part of that. Then I'm giving you various pointers which you need to watch out for and work on them on your own. So the main message here, all this, you can read all this. The main message here is the perspiration part. You guys are familiar with this quotation? Genius is 99% perspiration. You know this quotation? And this is from Thomas Alva Edison, okay? So who failed 1,000 times to invent the electric bulb, but eventually he got it. So a very famous inventor, very brilliant guy. He used to say that I use my body to carry my brain around. So, and even he, just imagine that even he says that genius is 99% perspiration. The message of this particular module here is that everything is based on hard work. Okay, and so that, as I say, in my view, I don't make a distinction between stupid people and smart people. I make the distinction between lazy people and industrious. Industrious, you know what industrious is? Hardworking. Okay, industrious means hardworking. So I say that actually people we call stupid, they're actually too lazy. The fundamental problem with them is they're lazy, because to become smart you need to work hard. Okay, so your brain is like a plastic entity. It's like a muscle. You work your biceps in the gym, your biceps get bigger. You work your brain, you push yourself learning something, you work your brain and your brain becomes more powerful. It's not a static entity. So the stupid people are actually too lazy to do the hard work that's required to become smart. So the message of this module is work ethic. You guys all know Elon Musk? So, yeah, Tesla Motors, SpaceX. Now there's a new Boring company. You know the Boring company?
Yes, sir.
They're tunneling through under Los Angeles. They're tunneling under Los Angeles, trying to put that Hyperloop in place,
Yes,
right? So Boring company, it's very exciting to work at the Boring company. Actually, that's the thing. So anyway, so Elon Musk is a multi-billionaire. You know that?
Yes, sir.
He does not need to work, but he's running all these companies. And how hard is he working? He works himself to death actually. His idea is that when I go to bed, I should be so exhausted that I'm just going to collapse. So he used to actually, when Tesla was having a lot of production problems, he used to have a pillow underneath his desk at the Tesla factory, and used to sleep at the factory itself. So this is what I always say, that Elon Musk is the poster child for work ethic. Okay, you understand this term, work ethic? One of the most important things you'll learn. Everything in life is work ethic. In fact, I don't regard a person, if I see a person who does not have a work ethic, I personally don't regard him as a human being. I think they're like a subhuman kind of amoeba kind of thing. Okay? Work ethic is the most important thing in the world. Work ethic means that you are willing to put in, there's no maximum amount of work or anything involved. You are willing to put in as much work as is required to do a quality job. Okay, if you have this thing, it will also make sure that you're never really unhappy in life. People who have a strong work ethic are never really unhappy in life. Okay, so this is the main message of this, that you need to focus properly. And here I will give you some tunnel vision. I'll be the only faculty here who will tell you this, but I'm generally not, because I see the main problem is our objective is to produce outstanding business students. I think you guys are quite far behind compared to what the top schools are going to produce at the end of 2 years. So therefore you don't have much time. Okay, so therefore I'm not a fan of all these people spending time on all this sports day and festivals and freshers party. People are spending 3 days preparing their dance routines for the freshers party. These are all things which should have been left behind in your undergraduate days. Okay, now you're in a different program. You should understand the world is different now. You've come into a professional program. That part of your life is over. Now you're trying to work. You should be totally focused on, you understand what I mean by tunnel vision?
Yes, sir.
That story of Arjun and the eye of the bird, you know that? That he was only able to see the eye of the bird, everybody else was seeing everything else. So you should be totally focused on making yourself an outstanding business student, and not so much that the time you lose in festivals, it's just that it's a bad orientation. I think that we should not be giving students these kind of messages that you should be doing a jack of all trades, you should be doing this and that. You don't need all this balance in life, okay? There's no, I mean, if you want to produce outstanding results, there's no real balance. You need to be totally focused on what you're doing. You don't have much time, so you need to work very hard. Be focused on developing yourself as a business student. Is this clear? You get the message? Yes? There's a lot of fun and games happening there. The first day I'm going to be a little lenient, but later on I'll have to start deducting marks. Okay? So please pay attention. Okay. So this message we have already got. Are you following so far what I'm saying? If it feels like it's disorienting, please ask me. Okay. So what we were talking about skills. Okay. I have listed some of the skills. Here that you need to focus on. These are some of the skills. Communication skills, very important. Okay. Oral communication is very important. I find this problem in every batch. I keep telling every batch when I meet them first. Focus. What is the language of global business? English. Okay. So not that I dislike Hindi. I have also taken Hindi 2-3 years in school, but Hindi is not the language of global business. If we are trying to develop outstanding business students, and your Hindi doesn't need any improvement, but in many cases your English needs improvement, and yet I keep seeing students, they come to faculty and they speak in Hindi. Now other faculty may not be that particular, okay, because you have to be really particular about it. And people normally just speak, if you speak in Hindi, they will respond in Hindi. But if you speak to me in Hindi, I'll definitely tell you to speak in English. Please make groups among yourselves where you speak to each other only in English. If you're weak in English, you need to correct this, because by the time you get to your interview stage, your English should have been really polished properly. Okay, I've seen students lose out on good job opportunities because their spoken English was not good. Very good job opportunities, highly technically qualified student, but the recruiter told me that his communication skills are so poor, how are we going to hire him? So oral communication is most important. I've given you tips on what you should do, how you can improve your English. It's not rocket science, okay? Many people have done it. You have not seen the young Akshay Kumar. He could not speak any English at all, but now he's able to manage. Okay, Harbhajan has also picked up. Mr. Modi has also picked up, although he doesn't speak anymore, but he actually picked up very well and quite quickly. So it can be done. You need to focus on it. Very important. Communication skills. Then certain other skills that you have to focus on. Analytical skills. Okay, domain and strategic thinking. I'll just start with this. Analytical, critical thinking, that partly related to the logic idea I was talking about, but this will also be developed in the course of your curriculum, right? Domain knowledge, some of it will be coming through in the courses that you do, and some of it you will have to follow the instructions that are given to you. I'm moving up and down in the notes a little bit. Remember, all this is already with you. So there is a general instruction, there's a note, this is a document. Okay, and here I would direct you to. So I've already told you that this is my YouTube channel. Here you'll find the playlist of courses, and in that playlist of courses you will find, I'm talking about, at this point we are discussing the point of domain knowledge. Okay, it's not just concepts but also news. You understand what domain knowledge is? Domain knowledge means if you're doing finance, you should understand all the concepts involved in analyzing financial situations, financial markets, okay, cost of capital, then different the stuff that you've done in FM1, then all the different types of instruments, futures, forwards, swaps, options. You have to understand all these products. This is part of your domain knowledge, how markets work, concepts. But there's also the news element. Okay, now I'm coming to the news elements, and that's why I'm coming to this point. So here you will see that there are all the things are arranged. Each playlist is a theme. Every course is here. Okay, every financial law course will also come up. Your video of today, this video today will be uploaded, and all the other videos for your lab. There'll be a new course created which will have spring 2020 here. Okay, look for it and you can find it. Other you can just subscribe and get a notification. You'll get the notification for the new video. Okay, under miscellaneous lectures, here there is a miscellaneous lectures playlist. Under this is on the subject of news. Okay, go to this and you'll open this here. There's one important here, two important videos. There are many videos here, you can watch them if you want. Okay, mainly this is the most important one, I think. Here you have more detailed guidance on how you should be tracking business news. So your domain knowledge is not just concepts but also news. Are you following? Yes. Everything that's happening. So if you decide to focus, let's say on supply chain management, suppose your focus area is logistics and supply chain management. I'm just giving you an example. You're aware of these terms? Okay. All this now, e-commerce, supply chain management has become very important. Okay. So suppose that's your focus. You go to Google and set up a Google alert. You'll see all the guidance here. Google News alert for supply chain management. Everything that happens in the world, if there's a port strike in Brazil, the iron ore supply chain has got clogged because iron ore is not moving out from the port, you should be aware of it. Everything that happens, some earthquake in Japan, what it does to operations at Tokyo port, everything you should be aware of. Everything that's happening in your area, around the world, you should be aware of all the things, and all these events will form part of your knowledge base, your experience base. It's like you're building up your experience before you even enter industry. Are you following what I'm saying? Continuous news absorption. Many elements of guidance are given here. Just follow this video, you can get a lot of that. Okay, I've asked you to watch various business channels. So yeah, coming back to this, so the idea of domain knowledge is not just concepts which you'll be taught in your courses, but also following the news in your area of interest. If you're interested in brand management, set up a news alert for brand management. Analyze all the brands, everything that's going on anywhere in the world. Okay, nothing should be missed. Okay, so analytical critical thinking, again, this will come to some extent from the courses. You can work on your logic textbook. Strategic thinking is very important. Strategic thinking includes basically the idea here is to integrate all the different domains. Okay, you understand, you haven't done any courses on strategy, okay, but for instance, you all know Netflix. Now Netflix started out as a video rental site. They were not initially into streaming. Now they took a strategic decision to get into this business when it was actually not a big deal. Nobody thought it was a hot area, but they went into it and they invested a lot of money. So there's a financial element to it, the cost and how you finance it, whether you use debt or equity. There's a finance element to it. There are technology elements to it. Very interesting technology, because Netflix is actually competing with Amazon, right? Because Amazon is selling videos, and these guys are saying you don't need to buy the video, just watch it, I'll stream it for you. So they're actually competing with Amazon, right? But at the same time, Netflix is using the Amazon Web Services technology infrastructure to deliver their product. So you heard this term frenemy? Yes. Friend and enemy. So Amazon and Netflix have a frenemy kind of relationship. Now these are all elements of the strategy where you're integrating everything, finance, marketing. Then if you're streaming, then how do you market the streaming service to consumers around the world? How do you launch in different countries? Your content selection, everything, because Indian content is different from US content. So all these decisions put together, this is what makes the overall strategy. And the overall strategy has to work well, right? Like all the members of a cricket team have to jive well, work well together and produce a good performance, or any sports team. So the idea behind strategic thinking is also the idea of big picture integration, being able to integrate. And Netflix also has very innovative HR policies. They allow people to take unlimited amounts of leave. Netflix's HR policy. So you can see everything is connected. So when you're producing an innovative product, okay, an innovative service you're delivering, how do they inspire people to work at Netflix? They have unlimited leave. There's no limit on the amount of leave you can take. So they have all kinds of, you can Google Netflix HR policy. So all these things, strategy is a combination of all these elements. So when you're studying all the different subjects, you have to think along these lines. Because if you see, I've given you a slightly old link because we can't find them anywhere. This will not come out very well in your case. Yeah, the job skills report, you can see it later on at home. They survey, they try to see the skills gap. I don't know if it's coming out well here. It's a little bit better than the other class. But here what they're trying to find is, even from the top business schools, they are trying to find skills which companies want in this top right. These are the skills that companies want but are normally not seen, quite rare. These skills are quite rare. Here you'll find communication, leadership, strategic thinking, creative thinking, all these skills. Okay, so this is some kind of a guidance for you as to how you go about developing these skills, but I've already given you the link. So this is the idea. Okay, so this is the second point. Is first is the work ethic. The second is basically the work ethic is directed to developing skills. Are you getting the broad themes that I'm harping on? Okay, work ethic, skills, not degrees. Undergraduate, focus on getting marks and getting degrees. That's not going to help you. If you don't have knowledge and skills which are useful to a company, they are not going to hire you. Okay, they don't care what grades you got, not so much. So focus on developing the skills. Okay, now I'll spend a brief amount of time on just on the finance electives, because every year we are getting a lot of students who don't seem to have any interest in finance, and they take finance, and it's quite a dense subject actually, and then they're just getting bored in the class and then disturbing the other students. So in an effort to prevent that, so what I would say about finance is, you might hear from a lot of people that finance is a very mathematical subject. I would take a different view. I don't think finance is very mathematical. This is useful for anybody who is thinking that, okay, maybe I want to take finance, I'm not sure. The way you can make yourself sure is very easy to do that. I would say to you, the main decision, and this is not just for finance, for every subject. Should I take marketing? Not. Some people came, one of your students, she came to me and said, I've got very poor marks in marketing, so I'm not taking marketing. That should not be the driver. You should be driven by your interest. Are you interested in marketing? Do you spend your time thinking about brands, looking at an advertisement, thinking that no, this ad should not have been made like this, it should have been done in animation, and this should have not been put at this time of the day? If you are thinking like this, that means you have an interest in advertising, marketing, these ideas. So everything should be driven by your interest in the subject. So your choice of a subject should be driven by your interest in the subject. Are you fascinated by the subject? And then only you decide what is happening. Walia and who is next to Aman? Who is next? What's your name? Aman. Okay, you guys are also talking a lot. First class, I'm giving you a little bit of a leeway. Walia, you don't come and sit next to Ahuja. Then let's separate Aman. You're Ahuja, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, good. So I'll take some time to get used to the names. Okay, so are you following the message? Very important. A lot of people get scared of finance. Oh, it's very mathematical. But I don't think it's very mathematical. It's just class 12. You should not have a fear of maths. If every time you see an equation you pass out, then you have a problem. If you don't have a fear of maths, it's okay. You just need class 12 algebra, that's all. You need to be able to think mathematically, some of which I'll guide you on how to do that. Okay, instead of doing it mechanically, you have to think mathematically. Mainly it's a conceptual subject. It's very much like law. It's conceptual, it's logical, but it's quite complex concepts. So if you're not interested in the subject, you won't be able to put in the effort that is required to learn the subject properly. This is true for every subject. You understand why I'm talking about interest? Because to learn any subject, quiet. I don't want to see any noise. If you're feeling bored, just go to sleep. Don't disturb, don't talk to your partner. Okay, guys, so this applies to every subject. Interest is your main driver. Because, why is that? Because to become an expert in any subject, you'll have to put in an enormous amount of work ethic. Remember, you can't become an expert without putting in enough, and you are never going to be able to put in work, because we are human beings, we are driven by our emotions. It's not possible for you to put in the work in a subject in which you are not interested. So if you're not interested in HR, you take HR, you will not be able to become good at HR. So it's a waste of time. Take the subject in which you're interested. Now, how do you find out whether you're interested in finance? Very simple. I'm just giving you a clue here. Start from I think it says here, start from summer. We name the courses in the US style: season, summer, fall, winter, spring. So what you have available in your summer time, in your summer break, you can do this exercise if you want to take a decision. Start with summer, which means IPM. Okay, last course done. All the course videos, everything is captured. Entire class performance and anything that's happening in the class. So you can actually do the entire course online. Okay, the only difference is you can't ask questions. because you were not there. So the whole course can be done online. So if you just do one course, you'll be able to get your answer. Is this something that I like, or is this something that is not appealing to me? If it's not appealing to you, then don't take it. Are you following the point? Okay, there are some instructions also I've given you in terms of the other videos from miscellaneous lectures, how to track business news. Are you finding financial markets fascinating? Okay, that's the main thing. Then summer, then fall, and then winter. These 3 electives, you can do all 3 if you want. This will give you a very good flavor at this point of what it's going to be like in the finance electives. Okay, so instead of getting into a position where you join the course and then after 5-6 sessions you're finding that this is not worth it for me, it's not, you don't have to wait that long. You can do this exercise virtually. Are you following what I'm saying? You can solve that problem much earlier by spending your summer looking at some of the course material and looking at some of the lectures, and decide whether you want to do this or not. Okay, that is an easy way to do it. In finance, you can take that decision early on. Okay, so we will talk. I hope you guys are not finding this lecture boring. Are you finding it boring? Okay, there are some philosophical points which I wanted to emphasize, which I think should be taught to everybody. We don't have an opportunity to tell you about all these things, but I think that everyone should be made aware of these things that may be useful for you. Okay, the other main message I want to give you is the importance of individualism. Okay, which is a message which normally would not come across in our society. We tend to de-emphasize individualism, but this is very important actually, because it's important that you spend your life making your own mistakes, not your uncle's mistakes or your grandmother's mistakes. Okay, so if your grandmother wants you to become a lawyer, but you're not interested in law, then you should not be studying law, because you're going to get bored, you'll make a mess of yourself. You should do what you're interested in. Okay, there's a basic message that you all remember Bruce Lee?
Yes, sir.
So Bruce Lee used to say, he had this expression, express yourself. Okay, Bruce Lee was called the artist of life. He's a very interesting character actually. So philosophy, painting, he did a lot of painting as well. So express yourself. All these points are actually on the same theme of individualism. Okay, this is a famous American philosopher. You have to basically ascend, and this you'll find as a problem in many cases, because it's not so easy. A lot of the time what happens is we don't have enough confidence in ourselves, and we get swayed by what others are saying. And so it's very important that you have faith in your own feelings. If it feels to you that this is not the right course of action, you should follow your own instincts. It's very important to understand that. And you have all these things from history that can guide you, that can give you confidence that it's the right course of action. Okay, you guys have heard of Frank Sinatra? He's a famous singer. Okay, very famous singer. So Frank Sinatra had quite an unconventional life, a bit of a troublemaker and all that. But there's a song called My Way, written on the same theme of individualism. There's a song by Paul Anka. Paul Anka is a songwriter, singer-songwriter. He wrote this song called My Way. You can look up the lyrics, very interesting. Whatever I did, I made a lot of mistakes, but I did it my way. That's the theme of the song, which I think is very important. Okay, so you live your life making your own mistakes, not other people's mistakes. And this is the Spanish version of that song, quite nice. You can listen to it, Gypsy Kings. Okay, so you can look at the lyrics of this song. Same concept, individualism, and some other points which I think are very important. The English poet Stephen Spender. This is a useful way of thinking, because sometimes it is helpful to think about what is the purpose of your life. Sometimes it may seem a little philosophical at your age. Maybe it's not fashionable to think about these things, because maybe it's a little uncool to think about philosophical things. But it's from time to time it's useful to think about these things. And so if you think about what is your purpose in life, this is a very useful statement to keep in mind, that your duty is to fulfill your potential. Everybody has some potential. You have to figure out what your potential is, and this is the only way that you're going to find happiness. Remember that money is not important, right? Happiness is more important. More important to feel happy and fulfilled, satisfied, right? Because many people with a lot of money have all kinds of problems. You know that these guys like Ben Affleck, you know Ben Affleck? Yeah, lots of money, but he's an alcoholic. He keeps going in and out of rehab. His ex-wife is driving him to rehab all the time. Then Robert Downey Jr. also had a lot of problems with drugs. Okay. Okay, these guys, they're not doing drugs for fun. They are actually doing drugs because they're unhappy. They're doing booze because they're unhappy. So there's a problem. So money alone doesn't make you happy. You need to have a sense of purpose. You need to have some kind of core philosophy which drives you, which will help you to achieve that kind of satisfaction. Okay, so here are some ideas. Yes, lots of talking going on. Okay, again, captain of the ship of your destiny. These are all famous people, famous architect and designer. So the idea here is that you're captaining, you're piloting your ship. Okay, and after your PGDM program, you can drop. It's like the ship is dropping anchor, and you're thinking about, okay, where do I want my ship to go in the future? Think about what you have done in the past. Which direction do you want to go about? It's a useful way of thinking about your life. Okay, so these are all ideas and are all connected to the idea of fulfilling your own potential, being driven by your inner instinct, your own inner voice, not other people's ideas. Okay, emotional versus rational. Also important to be aware of this difference. Like, everyone has two identities within you. Okay, you have an emotional part and a rational part. A simple way to give you an idea of that is basically this idea of, let's say, take the example of going to the gym. Now, you may not feel like going to the gym because nobody likes working hard and all that, but so maybe you want to just hang loose and sit on the sofa and watch IPL, but that is your emotional part, right? But the rational part will drive you. The job of the rational part of you should think about yourself in this way, that in my head I have two parts, the emotional part and the rational part. You should try to be conscious of what the emotional part is saying to you and what the rational part is saying to you. And the job of the rational part is to make sure that you do the correct things which will help you to fulfill your potential. Okay, to basically express yourself, fulfill your potential. So the rational part is what I said is like a trustee of your talent. So your potential comes from your talent, right? Are you following? Your potential comes from your talent, and your talent has to be exploited. So the rational part is basically like the trustee of your talent. You heard this term, trustee? A trustee, you have the trust. You know what a trust is? So people say it's a legal term actually, that let's say Ratan Tata might set up a trust for his nephews and all that, for maybe the nephews are very young. Okay, so he will set up a trustee whose job is to manage. The trust is like a pool of funds. So the trustee will manage the pool of funds for the benefit of the beneficiaries, that is his nephews. Okay, the trustee's job is not to manage it for his own benefit, but to manage it for the benefit of the nephews, okay, the beneficiaries of the trust. So your talent is the beneficiary of the trust, and your rational part is the trustee of your talent. So it's like your rational part is watching over you and being aware that you have a certain talent. Maybe you can become a great programmer, and the rational part's job is to make sure that from time to time you are made to work hard on programming so that you can develop your potential as a programmer. Are you following what I'm saying? Okay, this is a useful way to think about it because everybody has this. Okay, another very important point, power of independent thought. This is actually very important because very often you find people with 2 PhDs who don't have the power to think for themselves. It's a very big problem. Most people, they can't think for themselves. They get swayed by what people are saying. It's very important when you go, and it's just connected to the idea of individualism, listening to your inner voice. You need to develop your inner voice. So this also you should be constantly aware that as I'm studying, I should also, initially when you study something, you may not have a well-developed set of views. So you're just repeating what is in the textbook, but you should also have it in the back of your mind that eventually I need to develop my own way of looking at it. Like I gave you the example, like when you're looking at, if you're a marketing obsessed guy, you're looking at billboards, you're analyzing the billboard, you're taking a critical view that this billboard should not have been placed over here, maybe it shouldn't have been on Janpath. Okay, so location of the billboard, design, everything, you have an opinion on everything, and you can justify your opinion. That takes time to develop, but you should have it in the back of your mind that that's where you want to go eventually. It's not sufficient to repeat what is in the textbook. It is very important to eventually develop your own way of looking at things. Are you following? These are all points to keep in mind. Anybody getting bored? Are you getting bored? Little bit boring, right? Yes. Okay. So what do we do? Let's try and finish this course. We have only about 15 minutes. I want to deliver this material. Okay. So anyway, so section B was talking more, but they didn't. They were saying they were not feeling bored, but maybe they were actually feeling more bored. But anyway, but it's just an idea that I had, which I thought with everything. I thought that certain ideas should be communicated to you because it may help you in the way you guide yourself. It goes beyond lab. Okay, another very important point, another very important statement, which is, have you heard this expression before? Everything that happens to you, not for a reason. This is different. Everything that happens to you,
90%, 10% problem. 90% is the problem, and 10% is an outlook on that.
no, it's the reverse actually. What you're saying is the outlook is more important, right?
Yes,
Your perception of the fact. So I think this is a very important. Just bear with me. I recognize you're feeling bored, but just bear with me, and just bear with me for 15 more minutes, and let's finish this module, because I think these are more important. Okay, so you should trust the fact that I have more experience than you. So if I'm telling you this, just try and suspend your judgment and absorb what I'm telling you. Okay, I think this statement is very important. I think it's so important that everybody should have this statement pasted on their wall, and you should look at it every day until you understand the real meaning of the statement. You will find that everything that has happened in your life, you may not be happy with some of the outcomes. Okay, maybe you didn't get into a good school in class 10, or so everything that has happened in your life actually reflects your own mindset, because we have a tendency to blame other people and blame circumstances and all that, but actually you will find that your own mindset has driven all the results. And right now I'm just telling you this and you're just hearing it, so it doesn't really register. That's why I say that keep looking at the statement every few weeks, and one day it'll hit you like a ton of bricks. Okay, I'll just give you a brief example as to when you really understand that this principle that we have in the Gita, right? That your job is to do your duty and not worry about the consequences, right? So you'll see, I was aware of this statement, but it never really hit. I never really understood the statement until something happened, like in my evidence paper. Like I put in a huge amount of effort into my LLB program. So in my evidence paper, they just arbitrarily failed me, and it was so frustrating. And then I found out from I took an answer sheet copy, and I found out that I hadn't actually done badly in the course, but it was arbitrarily marked. So then that's when for the first time I realized what this statement means, that you don't worry about the consequences and you just focus on doing your duty, because you have so little control over the consequences that if you worry about the consequences, you will not be able to function in life. You have to focus on just doing your duty, but this, as I said, and not worry, because the consequences are not under your control. And if you focus on that, you'll basically get paralyzed. Because I was so disheartened when I saw the result that I was like, it was very, very disappointing. But then I have to move on. I have to keep on going to the next paper. So this is why then I understood for the first time. I understood in my gut. This is what it means to understand something in your gut. So what I'm saying to you is that one day you'll understand the meaning of the statement in your gut, that what it means to have everything happening to you reflecting your mindset only. Okay, so we have a little time, so we are going to spend this time covering some of these topics. Okay, so you are focused on improving yourself. One thing, you've heard this term called observing ego. It's a term from psychology actually, which teaches you to kind of observing ego as a part of you that can observe your thoughts. Okay, you might have noticed sometimes that, let's say you're studying something, but suddenly you notice that your mind has already drifted to something else. Then I don't know if you've done this exercise, but you can actually find out in what steps did your mind drift from what you were studying. Let's say you were studying mathematics, and then suddenly your mind has drifted to some part, maybe some trip you took to Kerala or something. But how did it go from here to there? There was some sequence of steps. It's all logical, right? It's all connected. So if you can trace back the train of thought as to how you went from here to there, that puts you into the habit of observing your own thoughts. That's why we call it meta thoughts. Meta means you're rising above that level, like meta learning about learning. Okay, meta thought is thinking about your own thoughts. So if you get into this habit of observing your own thoughts, that puts you into a situation where you're in a better position to understand this connection, how your outcomes, this is happening, these are the outcomes, how they are being driven by your mindset. Okay, so this is a way of looking at things. I'm just showing you, I'm just giving you all these tips because if you have these ideas in your head, you can put them into practice. They will be useful for you. Okay, so you should also get into that habit of observing your own thoughts. Okay, right. So that and here are some so basically your thoughts, your belief systems, and how they may sabotage the achievement of your goals. So this is the thinking part of it, how you change your thinking and change your outcomes. On this point, I've given you two books which you can read. This is a Greek philosopher called Epictetus. Are you aware of this guy called a Roman emperor called Marcus Aurelius?
Yes, sir.
You know Marcus Aurelius? He's the, you know, this Russell Crowe film called Gladiator?
Yes, sir.
So in the film, there's a Joaquin Phoenix murders an old man, his father, in the first part of the film.
Yes, sir.
So that old man is the character of Marcus Aurelius. He was a great Roman emperor, a great conqueror, but he was also a philosopher. Okay, so he wrote this book called Meditations, how he was trying to apply philosophy in his real life, in his daily life. So philosophy has a lot of real life applications, and this is a very good example of that. So this book is also very important. This is the teacher of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus. He taught Marcus Aurelius. So you can read this book, it's very useful. Partly what you were saying, that you know, like that the events are neutral, but it's our perception that colors the events. Our perception you know, colors the events, but the events are neutral. These kind of ideas you will get here. This is an inspirational book. Roman soldiers used to carry this book into battle. Okay, so in many ways the message is similar to what is there in the Gita as well. This is a modern book which you will have to buy if you want to, if you are interested in self-improvement. This is, I think, it's a good book to read. Okay, Anthony Robbins, Unlimited Power. It's a good book to read, I think. So these are some of the books that you can use to start focusing on the way you think and improving that. So this is from Cognitive Psychology. Okay. All right, now last few points. Okay, you heard of this term called Kaizen? What does Kaizen mean? Not just continuous, but also small. Small and continuous, okay? So the idea here is, remember what have we been harping on, the theme? The theme that we have been harping on is that the theme of work ethic, being aware of your individual talents, your individual goals, and trying to develop an independent way of thinking, okay? And also obviously connected to this idea is the idea of self-improvement, because you're trying to develop skills, you're improving yourself. And so when you're trying to develop skills, it's not so important to make huge strides. The idea of Kaizen is that even small improvements are fine, they are still worthwhile. And you should not get disappointed if you're making only small improvements and not huge improvements, because if you can continue that process every day, that's what eventually leads to huge tremendous achievements. Okay, so the idea of Kaizen is even small improvements can be beneficial. And you know how, for instance, you know how stone breakers, you know how they break stones? Do you know how they break stones? Huge boulders, you know the story of how they break the huge boulders which are broken manually? What they do is they take a huge boulder and they hammer it every day. They hammer it for a few minutes every day, and they keep doing this, and then one fine day, and it seems like they're not getting any results because it's not cracking open. But what is happening is all those things are creating minute cracks in the boulder, and one fine day then they hammer it in the same way, the whole thing cracks apart. So this is a similar idea of Kaizen, that you make small improvements and then one day you'll find that there's a tremendous leap forward. Okay, on the point of improvement, I will just introduce you to this file, which is also in your folder. If you click this, you'll find this. There's a sheet which I maintain, which has links to all these course portals. Okay, now what I would emphasize is two things. First, please emphasize your PGDM program first. Don't ignore your PGDM program, because it's important to maintain some decent grades, because you might get filtered out in the interview process if your grades are very poor. If you're in the PGDM program, do justice to the program. And over and above, if you have time beyond the program, then you can do this. these are the important course portals. You can go there and find out some of these courses. If you're interested in, you can do these courses, and you can audit the courses. Okay, if you look at any of these, so if you look at this is the Harvard MIT collaboration, and just close this. So if you go here, let's say you're interested, let's say if you're interested in say data science, you can go to data science, you can find some good courses. Please select good universities. You guys know what the good universities are. Don't take some, most of these universities here will be good. Okay, so the idea here is that this I think is too big. The font size is maybe too big. So Georgia Tech is a very good university. They have, especially for this kind of topic. What I would say is, you guys are familiar with the idea of auditing courses?
Yes, sir.
Auditing courses, right? Auditing means you don't have to get a degree. It's like somebody sits in this lab course as an observer. He listens to all the classes, he absorbs all the learning, but he doesn't sit for the end term, and we don't mark his CP, and he doesn't get a grade. But actually, if you want to look at the learning, he has absorbed all the learning. Okay, because if he comes prepared with the cases he's absorbed. So auditing is when you sit in the course, but you don't get graded, you don't get a degree and a mark sheet, but you have absorbed all the learning. So you can sign up for free and audit most of these courses, because they're all charging you money for the certificates. Now they're trying, earlier on a lot of stuff was available for free, but now they're charging everything for certificates. But everyone is charging for certificates, but you can audit the course and pick up the learning. Okay, remember that what matters is your learning. So if you can put it on your CV, if you've done the auditing of, if you audited the course and you've absorbed the learning, okay, if you're confident about the material, you must be confident about the material. You can put it on your CV even if you don't have a certificate. It doesn't matter. You say that I didn't want to pay the money, but I have learned everything in the course. You following what I'm saying? Yes. Learning is more important. So the other thing I would say is also don't get caught up too much in this. So in a way it's little conflicting advice. Sometimes we notice some of our students get caught up in certificate collection. They feel like we are already doing the PGDM program, we'll have the degree, now let me collect some certificates. But don't forget what I've told you here. This is very important, okay? This domain knowledge part is very important. So focus on learning. Learning is much more important than certificates and degrees. To some extent you need certificates also, but learning is much more important. So make sure that your learning is solid. Okay, don't get, many people get caught up in certificate collection. You will get the certificates because this is now a money-making business. People are selling certificates. This has also become a business, right? Everybody's selling. So you have to be very careful. You do these courses only from top-notch universities, and be aware that you should not forget about actual learning. Knowledge is more important, okay? So don't lose sight of these aspects which I've taught you, and how to improve your knowledge continuously, okay? All right, now let's complete the last part here. Okay, you know what MOOCs are, right? Does everybody know what MOOCs are? You don't know MOOCs? Let's ask some of the people there who are very active. What is your name? I forgot. What is your name? Karthikeya. Okay. Yes, Karthikeya, can you tell us what MOOCs are, since you're so active? You and your buddies, your two buddies next to you. Any idea MOOCs? Okay, again, because remember, you are students. So you not only should be learning, but you should also have some idea about what are the common methods of learning, what is happening in the world of learning. This is about learning, meta learning. So MOOCs are massive open online courses. You can Google it later on. Okay, so massive, either you put the online first or the open first, but massive open online courses. The idea is these are online courses. You can do them from anywhere in the world, and massive because obviously massive numbers of people sign up. Online courses, you get the same learning. Okay, so MOOCs have become very big in the world today, but always be careful that you don't get into the certificate collection business. Okay, don't get lost. Knowledge is the most important. You have to develop skills. You should always be asking yourself, why should a company hire me? Every day ask yourself this question: why should a company hire me? What can I do for them? Always ask this question. Okay, so these are your resources. Okay, the other thing I would say, 1 minute guys, don't get restless. Now this today I'm being lenient because it's the first day, but from now onwards, what will happen is for the next class onwards, if I see any misbehavior, like Karthikeya, what he's done, and his two buddies, this will become minus 20 or something. Okay, so this red line is for your scores. Your total CP score will get affected by your penalty points. So this red column is for your penalty points. Okay, so anybody seen talking, your group will lose penalty points. The whole group will suffer. So the group leader had better keep the people in line. Okay. Last point, we have a little bit of half a minute. I'll just tell you one more point. Okay, 1 minute, guys. I would say that on the certificate collection business, okay, if you have to learn anything, first do justice to the PGDM program. But I would say the most important thing you can start is learn to code properly if you can. If you don't find it totally repulsive, then it's different. But I think it's very useful. Everybody should give it a shot. Okay, and you can use this MIT course. It's a top-notch university for coding, Python coding course from MIT. You can get the course materials, videos. Okay,